All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyler Newberry, and welcome to the StorTrends Virtual Lunch and Learn. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. If you were in a pizza delivery zone and registered for a pizza, it should be arriving soon if it has not already. Other than that, just give it a few more minutes if not. Like I said, welcome to the webinar, and we'll be getting started momentarily. Thanks so much. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to the StorTrends Virtual Lunch and Learn. My name is Tyler Newberry, and I'll be your moderator for today. With me today is the Director of StorTrends, Mr. Justin Bagby. YouTube is an object we need to cover. YouTube usually cooperates with these events. However, YouTube has been known to cut in and out occasionally. If it happens at some point during the presentation today, we recommend just refreshing the page. And if that doesn't work right away, just giving it about a minute would be just fine. Second, if you did register for the event and are in a pizza delivery zone, it should be arriving within the next few minutes if it hasn't already. If the delivery person hasn't contacted you within the next 5 to 10 minutes or so, shoot me an email. It is can be found below the video for this event. It's tylern@ami.com, and like I said, it can be found in that video description below the video. Please don't comment on the video. It'll be much quicker for us to contact the pizza delivery company if you shoot me an email directly. And lastly, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to post those to the comment section below, or you can shoot me an email with those questions, and we will address those questions at the end if time permits. So that is all we have for the boring housekeeping stuff. Let's go ahead and get on to the show, have everyone settle in, and we'll look forward to presenting to you. I'll go ahead and turn it over to the Director of StorTrends, Mr. Justin Bagby. Justin?
All right, thanks, Tyler. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Bagby. I'm the Director of the StorTrends Division at American MegaTrends Incorporated. So let's get started here. We're going to quickly jump through, show you a little bit of the agenda, what we're going to start with today. So we're going to have a quick introduction to AMI. We're going to talk a little bit about the customers that we sell to. We're going to talk a little bit about the product metrics and the offerings that we bring to market. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time on the 3600i and the 3610 benefits. And then we'll dive into the StorTrends technology with a live demo. As Tyler indicated, if you have any questions, please feel free to post those and ask those questions, and we'll be glad to get to them and answer them at the end of the presentation. All right, let's get started. So who is American MegaTrends Incorporated? The vast majority of you probably know us as a BIOS company. There's about a 65% chance if we restart the laptop or notebook or desktop computer you're watching this on, you'll be able to go into the BIOS setup and it'll be an AMI BIOS. AMI still owns 65% of that worldwide BIOS share of the market, and we're vastly known for that product. We've been doing that since 1985. Another product that you may know us from, if you've ever used the remote management features of a server or storage array, the lights out management feature, out of band management, you've utilized the MegaRack technology. That's our IPMI, our virtual KVM, and vMedia that you're using to remotely manage and see and monitor those servers and storage arrays. And then the third product is the MegaRAID card. From 1995 until AMI was the largest RAID vendor in the market with our MegaRAID card, and that was our first footprint into the storage industry. So we started in 95 and 96. We became the #1 RAID vendor in the world. MegaRAID is still the predominant RAID controller and RAID card that is shipped today. It is now owned by LSI of Avago Technologies. So you've probably been using or have used an AMI product at some point in your IT career. You just may not have known it. We've been under the hood, and AMI has about another 16 or 17 products, from backplane expanders to backplane controllers to keyboard controllers, things of that nature that we've used that are on more than half of the computers in the world today. So we have a very large worldwide recognition, and we're an IT industry leader, and every the OEMs and everyone knows us as a predominant software and hardware manufacturer in the industry. We were founded in 1985. We're headquartered out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have 4 U.S. offices, 8 international offices, and a little over 1,300 employees to support our customers. From a StorTrends perspective, we have 163 storage-based patents specifically on our StorTrends technology. So we're a very engineering-heavy company. We truly believe in bringing the best-of-breed technology to the customer base so that you can trust it, you can use it, and it's going to work efficiently and effectively in your environment. We now have over thousands of customers using the StorTrends arrays in the field today worldwide. So let's take a couple of seconds here and just kind of look at some of those customers. The first thing that I want to point out here is this is just a quick collage of some of the most recent customers that we have installed to. Just want to point out that there's not a specific niche that we sell to. These are all mostly small to medium business size customers. They range from transportation to legal, to education, to finance, to hospital, medical. You kind of name the industry, we have products in that industry from a StorTrends install perspective. So anyone that's looking for a couple terabytes all the way up to 256 terabytes for their centralized storage and disaster recovery, we're game for that type of an environment. Let's have a quick introduction to StorTrends, and these are the 4 product models that we offer today. On the left here, you'll see the StorTrends 3400i. This is our spinning disk SAN solution. We've been shipping this array for the past several years. This has been the flagship product for AMI. It's probably what the vast majority of you have installed today is some type of a spinning disk solution. This box will support up to 256 terabytes. It'll take either SAS or NL-SAS drives, and a mixture of the two. It is expandable. You can expand it using our StorTrends expansion shelf up to the 256 terabyte capacity. Next in the lineup is the 3500i. This product was released last year in 2014 in March. In January. The hybrid SAN quickly became the flagship product for StorTrends. A vast majority of our 3400i customers upgraded to the 3500i. They wanted to add a little bit of flash to their environment to give them that extra performance edge that they need to bring down the latencies that they're seeing with their applications. So we've had a lot of customers take on the 3500i, and it's just a short 1 year that it's been out in the market, and it's been a super successful product for us. Again, it takes anywhere from 2 to 6 SSDs in the front end, and then the back end of that box is filled with either NL-SAS or 15K SAS drives, depending on the performance and capacity of the customer. The SSDs are either 200s, 400s, 800s, or 2 terabytes in the front end. And we've got the ability to mix and match that to meet the customer's requirements to ensure that their hot data is all stored inside of those SSDs. But what we're really here to talk about today is the 3600i and the 3610. These are our all-flash arrays. We released these last week on Tuesday, March 17th. We've got about 40 boxes already in the field of these arrays. So we've been testing them in beta environments and existing customer environments for the past several months, and we're ready for general purchasing of the product now for mass production. Both the 3600 and the 3610, both boxes use a set of write-intensive drives and a set of read-intensive drives. The write-intensive drives come in 200s, 400s, 800s, and 2 terabytes, just like our hybrid. And the read-intensive drives come in 128s, 256, 512, and 1 terabyte sizes. And I'll explain in a few slides examples of why we use both a split tier in the write-intensive and read-intensive tiers. The 3600i limits at 64 terabytes of effective capacity, whereas its brother, the 3610, expands up to 256 terabytes with the help of the expansion shelf. So what are the primary differences between the 3600 and the 3610? Both are high performance and extreme performance appliances. The 3600 is limited to 16 CPUs and 64 gigs of RAM. We chose that model because a lot of our hybrid customers are in the 20 to 30, 40 terabyte realm. and they'll never grow beyond that 64 terabytes. So we chose a lighter model for those top customers so that they could get a little cheaper when they get into that box. So we don't tax them with CPU and memory that they really don't need. And it's just a straight pass-through savings for that customer that we send downstream to them by not forcing the box to have all the memory and CPU in it that its bigger brother has. Whereas the 3610 comes with 32 CPU cores and 192 gigs of memory. So it's a lot larger footprint for memory and CPU, which allows us to dedupe and compress a lot more effective capacity. So it ranges up to the 256 terabyte max effective capacity. Again, both boxes come with 4 1G ports and 4 10G ports. So you have full flexibility to go all 10G, and you can use the 1Gs for management. We also have the ability to change those 4 10Gs into 1Gs if you'd prefer to stay on a 1 gig network and not buy a 10 gig switch, and trunk those NICs together. So what are some of the new features of this box? Well, obviously deduplication and compression. I mentioned that we've got a little over 40 boxes in the field. We had 30 boxes in our beta environment that we tested. And what we saw in the beta environment was an average of 6.1 to 1 for our deduplication and compression ratio. So that was including backup data, some virtual desktop infrastructures. It was mixed workloads across most of the boxes. We also have VMware's ESXi 6.0 support that we're supporting with this appliance. And then our StorTrends IData. If you've ever used this tool from American MegaTrends, you know that tool is a data analysis tool. It's a performance analysis tool of your existing environment. We've added Linux support, and we've added deduplication and compression support, and specifically a deduplication analyzer. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the slide deck. And then expansion capabilities within our StorTrends expansion shelf. We've added all flash shelf tiers. Those can be a mixture of the write tier and the read tier, or it can be all read tier, specifically depending on what that customer needs for future growth. So let's talk a little bit about why did we create this box and what are we trying to do with it? So the benefits and the savings of the 3600i. If you look on the left here, this is what most of the existing customers have in their infrastructure today. If they've not already upgraded to a hybrid box or some type of a hybrid solution, they typically have spinning disks still in their infrastructure. So on the left here, that's an EMC VNX, and not to pick on EMC, that could be a StorTrends 3400i, it could be a Dell Compellent, it could be any type of a spinning disk solution that the customer has installed. But typically, to get to the capacity and the performance, you've got to stack up a lot of those boxes or spread out a lot of the heads. So this would be one SAN appliance and 4 disk enclosures under that head appliance. It'd be 48 terabytes raw. So this is 80 600 gig 15K SAS drives. And in a RAID 10, that's going to throw 24 terabytes of usable capacity. So our latency would have been somewhere around 10 milliseconds. The yearly power would have been around 12,000 kilowatts. And the CO2 emissions would have been about 7.17 tons. So there's 5 boxes you're managing. There's 80 vulnerable points of failure and 80 different disks. And that box would have cost somewhere around $125K when purchased just a few years back. Now let's fast forward to 2015 and the StorTrends 3600i all flash array. This is a 6.8 terabyte box. If you use a 5-to-1 dedupe and compression ratio, you're going to get to around 30 terabytes of effective capacity. So we're well above what the older solution was on the left. But notice what our latency has done with the use of SSD and with splitting the tier into a write tier and a read tier. We're able to keep that latency sub 1 milliseconds. It's just one box, a 3U form factor. We've cut our power in half. We've cut our CO2 emissions in half. And the management's just one unit. Now we only have 16 drives in the box. So it's a much simpler solution, a lighter solution. And it's got a lot of save CapEx and the OpEx perspective. So from just a purely CapEx perspective, you can see this kind of jumps off the screen here. It's only $44K for that box. And that doesn't include a support plan. That's just the array compared to the array from left to right. But what you'll notice, there's also an OpEx savings. So from a powers perspective, a power savings, a management perspective, in management overhead savings, and then in a footprint perspective. Whereas if you're in a colo or a data center, you're paying for rack space. If you can lessen that amount of rack space, you save money there. So there's up to 50% of OpEx savings when switching out to an all-flash array as well, replacing spinning disk. So what are some of the benefits in moving to an all-flash array? And what are the technology benefits specifically? Well, obviously, you have to have compression and dedupe. Otherwise, you're not going to have superb space savings. So with compression and dedupe, and it varies from environment to environment. In our beta testing, some of our customers were in the 1.5 to 1 realm, and there just was not a lot of dedupe and compression savings for them due to the applications and the type of data that they have. But for others that were virtualized, that were running a lot of VDI users, they were in that 10 to 1 compression and dedupe ratio savings. So it really depends on your specific environment, your specific applications, and you need a tool like StorTrends IData that's going to be able to walk across that database and look to determine what your comparable blocks are, so that you'll know what the deduplication and compression ratio is going to be ahead of time before you get involved with some sand vendor that could be making false promises. So we went to market with a read and write optimized tier. These are read intensive drives and write intensive SSD drives specifically in our box. And in the next couple slides, I'll explain the architecture behind that and the logic of why we chose that path. So we have over 300 configurations between our hybrid array and our all flash arrays. This is a mixture of the number of SSD drives in the write tiers, the number of SSD drives in the read tiers, and it allows us to really get flexible for our customer so that we can meet the specific performance and capacity requirements. So unlike a lot of other vendors that only carry 2 or 3 or 4 models, they're trying to pigeonhole the customers into a specific model, and they could be underselling you or overselling you on their technology because you don't fit the exact configuration that they've spec'd. Whereas with StorTrends, you're not going to face that. You're going to be able to get the exact size that you need for the right tier versus the right size for the read tier, so that we match it up perfectly. And again, we use the StorTrends IData tool to verify the configuration that's needed for your specific infrastructure. And then this is an all-inclusive feature set. So it's an enterprise class feature set, from replication to snapshots to thin provisioning, to auto data tiering. You name the enterprise feature and we've got it. And it's all at one price point. So no nickels, no dimes, no arms, no legs. When you buy the box, you have all the features to use. So what are the benefits from a performance perspective? Well, we've been able to take the latency down to under 1 millisecond. So sub 1 millisecond latency is huge for applications and databases that are out there. We're able to achieve a little over 300,000 IOPS. The controllers for the StorTrends 3600i series, they can be configured in an active-active or an active-passive configuration. So this is a Lua support if it's active-active. So if you need the throughput and you need all 4 10Gs pumping, we can put this thing into active-active. We can actually add 2 additional 10Gs per controller, so we can give you a total of 8. So we can get the throughput up there if needed. From a price perspective, the units, the 3600i starts at $24,999 and ranges depending on the capacity and the number of the read-intensive drives. And we have several configurations that start under $1 per gig effective capacity. From an application perspective, we're targeting virtualized environments, high-performance databases, VDI, and really we're looking at mixed workloads for centralized storage. So if you're looking to replace your centralized SAN today, or your centralized NAS, or you're looking to move from DAS to a virtualized environment, this is a good solution for that. And the experience level that we bring to the table, 30 years of IT leadership. In June, AMI will turn 30 years in age. We have millions of trusted RAID customers in the world, and that's just an attestament to the type of quality that we bring to the game from a RAID perspective, which is the #1 thing that protects people's data. And then we have over 1,300 StorTrends installs worldwide since the release of our StorTrends 3500i hybrid array. So that's just a testament to the growth and how quick we're growing with this product line within AMI. So let's take a couple minutes here and talk about read and write optimized tiers. When AMI started the architectural review of this product and preparing for designing of this product, we took a look at all of the SSD manufacturers that are out there, and there were 6 manufacturers that we tested that offered CMLC drives. And we had the mindset of going to market with all CMLC drives, but there was an inherent problem, and it was around endurance. We noticed that none of the consumer grade drives or the standard MLC drives allowed more than 3 drive writes per day, and most were 1 drive write per day. What does that mean to you as the consumer, of the user of the box? It means that there's only a certain limitation of writes that the drives can take from a program and erase perspective over their lifespan before they wear out and become read-only. You can't use them for reading and writing any further. So There's several vendors that use CMLC drives. They're living life on the edge. They're over provisioning. They're taking advantage of the over provisioned blocks that are in the SSDs, which is against the warranty of the SSD drive manufacturers. And they're trying to do things to manipulate the drives in order to get a longer lifespan out of the endurance. And in our opinion, after testing these drives for more than a year, it won't work. There's going to be endurance issues that they're going to face in year 3, year 4, or year 5 of the array. And what that means to you as the customer is that you could run out of endurance, and now you're going to have to upgrade your drives either one at a time, or you're going to be stuck in some kind of a replication upgrade or a forklift upgrade from that vendor. We wanted to avoid that completely for our customers. So we want the customer to be able to install the all-flash array and know that for a 5-year period, they will have 0 endurance issues with their drives. So to do that, we had to buffer the front end of this box with enterprise class SSDs. So our right tier is made up of either 2, 4, 6, or 8 enterprise class SSDs, and the remainder of the box is backfilled with the lower level standard MLC drives. So the MLC drives allow only 30 to 50 gigs per day of write changes, whereas the write intensive drives are going to allow for 2+ terabytes of write changes per day. So it's 10 drive writes per day for the enterprise class drives. So it's a huge buffer. So we send all of our writes to the right tier, and then we move the data down with our data auto tiering that we've had for the past 7 years into the actual read tier. So we're tiering that data down into the read tier as it becomes cold and it's only going to be read. But we've also taken an additional step. So we've created a technology called InLift Cash. So this is a page that we pulled out of our 3500i hybrid array. Our 3500i hybrid array has both caching and tiering in it from a hybrid perspective. A lot of vendors will tell you that tiering is better than caching, and then other vendors will tell you caching is better than tiering. We recognize the need for both. There's benefits to both, so we incorporated both of those in our 3500i hybrid array. Well, within our 3600 series all-flash array, we also pulled cache into the right tier. So the InLift Cache is a small section across the right tier drives that we carve out. And what it does is it's another buffer for the read tier drives. So the read intensive drives that are in the read tier. So in this diagram here, you see a blue Z block in the read tier. Let's say that that's a document that you created for your boss, and you wrote it in December, but he didn't want it until April timeframe when the management meetings come about for budgets and things of that nature. So you've put that drive, you put that report away. It's just kind of sitting there. We moved it down into the read tier because it got cold. And here it is in March, and you need to provide it to him in April. So you wake the document back up and you create a change. You just create a date change on it, and you update the date. Well, when you do, that write change comes in, and we move it into our InLift Cache section. What a lot of vendors would do is just send that write downstream into the read tier, into those read intensive drives. But we don't want to waste that drive write per day that we have on those drives. So we send it into the InLift Cache, and we start profiling that block. And we'll watch that block to see if there's additional changes to it. So if you start adding to that report and you start adding pages to it, per se, then it becomes hot. And what we do is we move that Z block from the read tier into the write tier, and we'll make the changes in the write tier. So this prevents us from making changes in the read tier and wasting the drive write. But let's say that, for instance, you just update the date and that's it. You walk away from it. So that would just be a small minor change. We would watch that InLift Cache. Once we see that that change is complete and we profile the block and it becomes cold, there's no future changes coming to it, we'll make one consolidated drive write downstream into that read block. So we only move it once. So this is just another protection layer that we've added to this platform to ensure that our customers know they're not going to see any endurance issues. So this is just technology that we have built and designed around these SSDs to give you, the customer, the peace of mind knowing that these drives are going to be, available and be able to be written to and have long life endurance for a 5 to 7 year period. So let's take just a couple minutes and talk about deduplication and compression. So without deduplication and compression, obviously an all-flash array is not that impressive. If you walk around with 10 terabytes of all flash and it's a $60,000 or $70,000 solution, that's all you've got. But with deduplication and compression, if you have a 2-to-1, you at least double that to 20 if it's a 4-to-1. So you can get your effective capacity up quickly if you have deduplication and compression technology. But the thing that I would like to point out is not all deduplication and compression are built alike. There's vast differences in the implementations that are out there in the market today. And this is AMI's specialty. This is what we've done as a company since 1985. We didn't invent motherboards when we started with motherboards in 85. We didn't invent the BIOS when we started with it in 86. We didn't invent the RAID card in 1995. There were already incumbents out there that had the market. But what we do is we design better products. We design better technology. So if you take a look at deduplication, it's been around for 10 plus years. It's been in backup software for a long time. So we didn't invent the deduplication mousetrap. We just made a better deduplication mousetrap. So how did we do that? Well, let's first talk about how it works. So our deduplication is inline, it's always on, and it's at the 4K block level. So there's a lot of vendors out there that'll tell you we have a various block level. We'll work at the byte level, we'll work at the 4K, the 8K, and they'll give you this spiel about how it works at various block sizes. Then they'll also tell you that we have a parallel process. We're inline, but we have the ability to go and do post-process at the same time. You know, if we stop inline, we can come back later and do post-process. The only reason they have to create additional block sizes and a post-process is because they cannot handle the performance of inline deduplication and compression. When the north side IO picks up in their array and the box becomes heavily utilized and the resources become tied up and they can no longer dedupe inline, they have to push that data off to a cache holding space. And then they come back, 10 minutes later, an hour later, whenever the performance goes down on the array and they see a lull, they'll go back and they'll perform post-process dedupe. So they're coming back later. Well, once they perform post-process dedupe, now they have to run a garbage collection across those SSD blocks that they tied up by temporarily dumping the data to it. So if they didn't temporarily dump the data, they couldn't commit the data to disk. They wouldn't be able to return back to the server saying that we acknowledge the IO. It would be huge latency penalties on their side. So they have to come up with all of these extra steps and extra overhead in order just to try to somehow dedupe the data later in the day and then write it to disk. With StorTrends, what we've implemented is a really intelligent and elegant dedupe engine. So if you look at the market and you look at how deduplication is implemented, StorTrends and the dedupe engine that we're using here is vastly different. First of all, it's all about the hashing and the indexing of the data. So we have two different hash tables. We have what we call a top and a bottom that are implemented in the StorTrends 3600i. The top hash table contains all hot data. So you probably are very familiar that the last written data is the most frequently accessed data. And that holds true in most scenarios. So what we do is we keep majority of the hot data upstream in the top hash table. And then we keep the colder data downstream in the cold hash table. The cold hash table resides on the SSDs. The hot hash table resides upstream in system RAM. What we found is by keeping the hot data upstream, we can do 95% of our lookups and our hashing and our data compares upstream in the hot table. This means that we never have to go downstream. Only 5% of the time do we go downstream for a data compare and lookup. That allows us to keep the latency extremely low by staying at the system memory level. So with a lot of other vendors, they have their hash table in different various places and their lookups are slow. And this is the reason that they have to go from inline to post-process and back and forth. So it's the design that makes deduplication efficient. And that's what's integrated here in the StorTrends 3600i. The next component about this is the compression piece. If you look at a lot of the open source storage that's out there, they'll compress, dedupe, and compress again. That's extremely taxing on the CPU and the memory. If you notice in the StorTrends 3610, we only have 196 gigs of memory. That's light compared to a lot of other vendors that are in the market that are above the 400 gig mark in system memory. By saving 200 gigs of memory and implementing an efficient dedupe and compression, that memory savings is passed directly onto our customer. And this is how we get sub $1 per gig pricing, is by providing you a lesser expensive solution than what the other vendors are offering out there. But with our compression, we have a very simple logic. We dedupe once, where we dedupe the block, and then we compress and we're done. So there's not a lot of compression, dedupe, compression like a lot of other vendors perform. So it's a very simple but yet elegant dedupe and compression engine that has been integrated into the 3600i series. And this is just huge cost savings for the customer. So let's talk just really quick here about snapshots. There's 8,096 snapshots within the StorTrends 3600i array. These are VSS aware snapshots, so they're application aware, so we can quiesce the database prior to taking a snap. This is redirect on write snapshots. So a lot of other vendors out there use copy on write. They make you set aside a certain percentage of space, whether it be 20% or 30%, just to put your snapshots into out of your actual usable capacity. We don't require that with redirect on write. We just redirect the snapshot to the next available block that's in line and just continue on. We have multiple schedules that we can implement for snapshots, for automating snapshots to meet your RPO. These schedules can be in granularity of 1 minute level. So we can take a snapshot every 1 minute, which is what we call near CDP, for near continuous data protection. And then we have a visual snapshot UI and recovery wizard. This is called SnapTrends. This allows you as the user to review the snap. You can even do single line database recovery in SQL, and you can recover single mailboxes in Exchange. So you can review it, you can pull out a specific file, and then you can roll back to it. Disaster recovery is a big differentiator between StorTrends and other vendors in the market. We can replicate between any of our arrays. So they all use the same software. So if you're looking for a cold DR facility and you have an all flash array on the front end, we can replicate to a spinning disk array so that you have a cold DR. If you need a hot DR, we might be able to use a hybrid and save a little bit of money on the DR. But if you want matching sides, we can also do that as well and put 2 all flash arrays at each facility. So there's a multitude of options here, even from bidirectional replication to many to one. We can get very creative with replication to help you save money, but also meet those recovery point time objectives. So one of the features here is called WDS. It stands for Wide Area Data Services. This allows us to dedupe, compress, and encrypt the snapshots. And then we also use our WAN optimization patented technology to send those across the wire. So if you're familiar with how a Riverbed or a Silver Peak work, they're able to keep the 2 sites in sync by using WAN optimization between the facilities. It's the same thing that's baked in here into StorTrends. The only difference there is we go a step further where we can actually provide consistency groups between the snapshots, and we can also set periodicity levels. So if you want to only have the snapshots fire between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. or between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., we can do that as well. So you can turn up and turn down the amount of snapshot bandwidth on that wire. So if you're concerned about how much of a pipe you have between the 2 facilities, we can regulate that with our periodicity settings in the actual array and control how we're sending that data to keep the secondary up. So this is our StorTrends IData tool. This is a very important tool. Even if you do not purchase storage from StorTrends, I highly recommend you run either StorTrends IData or a tool like IData. The main design from this tool came a 1.5 years ago when we launched our hybrid arrays, and we put them out into the market for beta use. We noticed that most customers know how much capacity they have. Some will know their IOPS, some will know their reads versus their writes, but most know just capacity levels, usable versus what they have raw in the box. What they don't know is how much of that usable capacity is hot versus cold. And what I mean by that is how much of that data is active. So with the StorTrends IData, it's downloadable for free off of stortrends.com. It sets up in just a few minutes. It runs by default for 7 days on your existing equipment. You could have a DAS environment. You could have a centralized SAN. You could have multiple SANs. The tool runs from either the server level, the VM level, or you can plug it into vSphere directly. It utilizes existing performance tools already in your environment today. So if you're running a Windows server, let's say you have 2012 on there, it's using the WMI in that Windows server to pull those data statistics out of, and allows us to analyze the data. So we're not doing anything tricky or funny here. We're just using your existing server statistic information and your virtualization statistic information, and we're rolling it all together in a very elegant chart. So this allows us to analyze all of that data and understand exactly the size of the SSDs and the capacity. So if you're using a hybrid array, you need to know how much SSD or flash you need in the hybrid versus spinning disk. If you don't put enough SSD in, you're going to see cache misses. You're going to see latency go through the roof. You're going to have huge performance bottlenecks. If you put too much SSD in, you are oversold, and the vendor probably charged you, $10, $20, $30, $40,000 more than you probably actually needed to spend. So To avoid being either undersold or oversold on the SSD space in a hybrid, that's the primary reason we created this IData tool. So it allowed us to identify the hot data. We knew exactly the quantity and the capacity of the SSDs that needed to be placed in that 3500i array. With our 3600i array, we've made a few changes. So one of the things that we've modified is the ability to determine the amount of writes that are coming in. So now we can take the IOPS and the writes section of the IOPS. We understand how much hot data is in the array. We can multiply the writes by the hot data and come up with what size write tier you'll need for the all-flash array. It could be a terabyte, 2 terabytes, 10 terabytes. It depends on your overall capacity and the applications that you have and you're running. So this tool will give us that information so that we don't have to guess. So a lot of vendors will tell you, you know, this is the size of SSDs that we recommend because you're a accounting company and you match another accounting company we've sold to. They're generalizing you. They're estimating or guesstimating. It's not something you want to get into with a vendor. We have had horror stories come from other vendors, from customers that have purchased other vendors' hybrid arrays, where within 6 to 12 months they're having to upgrade the SSD disk because they were under-provided the size that's needed. So they were sold smaller SSDs, and then they found out 6 months later they were seeing all these cache misses. They had huge latency issues, and they were forced to upgrade that box with expensive SSDs. So to avoid that, that's why we created this tool. With the 3600i, what we've added in is a deduplication analyzer. So when you run this tool, there's a deduplication application that's there. You can run that and it'll walk across the backup data. So if you have a backup of your SQL, if you have a backup of your Exchange, if you have just a backup of any type of backup data, we can walk across that and actually look for comparable blocks. And it's going to come back and give you an estimate. It's going to tell you you're a 2-to-1, you're a 3-to-1, you're a 12-to-1. It's going to tell you what your dedupe and your compression ratio look like. That way we know exactly the amount of usable and effective data to provide you. So if you need 50 terabytes of effective and you have a 5-to-1 dedupe and compression ratio, we know that we need to sell you 10 terabytes of capacity. So it's just another thing that we've added that allows us to know what you need instead of guess at what you need. So I would highly recommend you running this tool or running a tool like this. There's a couple other tools like this in the market that you can get your hands on that'll allow you to really understand what you need in your infrastructure before you go to the dance with any of these other storage vendors. Really quick, let's talk about the storage support program. Storage support packages are offered in 1 to 5 year terms. The 24 by technical support comes from Atlanta, Georgia. So when you call here, you're going to reach a storage engineer. It's a storage support engineer. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is support. If you called 10 of our customers that have the StorTrends arrays today and you ask them, you know, hey, tell me a little bit about what you like about their product, 9 out of 10 are going to lead with the support. They're going to tell you the support is by far the best they've ever experienced, no questions asked. It's the type of support they wish that other major server and storage manufacturers offered. The difference between StorAid and StorAid Plus is next business day on-site supports with our standard StorAid. If you need 4-hour support, on-site support, that's the StorAid Plus package. Single-year support extensions are available, and they're available after the 5-year term. We also provide remote email alert monitoring. So we're watching the alerts 24/7 that come from the arrays. A lot of times we can actually trigger an RMA and ship a spinning disk to a customer before they actually notify us of anything that's gone wrong. So we'll see the drive dropped out and it failed and had a hard failure. We'll go ahead and get an RMA in the mail from a proactive drive replacement perspective and get it to them. And then really the proactive piece comes from our integration of the smart data and the tools that the drive manufacturers have allowed us to include in our product. What we can do is actually watch these drives, specifically spinning disk in our hybrids, and we can tell when they have medium alerts and medium errors and grown medium defects on them. When they reach certain thresholds, we'll go ahead and request permission to replace the drive, and we'll ship the drive to the customer before that drive actually fails. So we're proactively replacing the drive instead of in a reactive situation where we have to replace it because it's already failed and dropped out of the array. So again, the storage support program, it's sold with every one of our StorTrends boxes. So let's jump into a quick demo here, and then we'll come back and do some Q&A. So again, if you have questions, please feel free to comment those, and we'll be glad to get to those at the end of the session here. So this is a StorTrends 3600i. This is what the initial screen looks like when you log into the box. You can use Firefox, Internet Explorer, any web browser that you choose. So here's the initial page. I'll come back to over here to the tree in just a minute. So you simply log into the IP address. If you have multiple boxes on your network, you'll see them pop up at the top. So it'll auto-discover the other StorTrends boxes that are out there and their IP addresses. You can just click on them and it'll automatically pull that up into the window. So you don't have to jump from browser to browser or screen to screen. You can just jump from box to box here. So it allows you to manage all of our boxes from one centralized location. So just want to point out here on the initial screen when you log in, the first thing you're going to notice is the physical capacity of the box here. So this is a 2.44 terabyte physical capacity after RAID. So I've used 229.27 gigs of used space. But with what I'm seeing in data reduction, which is an 11x, you see here in the yellow box, it means it's an 11-to-1 dedupe and compression ratio. It's predicting my capacity to be 26.88. And this is live. You'll see this change in just a few minutes because I'm running IO across the box. But this is a virtualized box that I'm running a lot of VDI stuff on right now. So that's why the data reduction is pretty high. Typical data reduction that we've seen in our customers today, specifically the beta environments, it's around a 6-to-1. But again, that's a lot of backup data that those beta environments put on it. It's not a lot of live data. They didn't run live data on those actual arrays. So it was a lot of backup data. So we see live data on customers go anywhere from a 2-to-1 to a 3-to-1 to a 4-to-1 up to a 6-to-1. But again, it varies. So that's one of the reasons why I stress again to run that iData tool or a tool like it to understand what this is going to be before you purchase the box. So based off of this data reduction, my free space physical is 2.22 terabytes. The predicted free space is 24.42. The next thing that it shows here in the middle of the screen, this is our smart information in our events. So you can see that we had an unexpected shutdown. I shut a controller down just before we got started. So you see the right controller shut down. You can see the left controller. I unplugged NIC 6 and NIC 5 out of my switch before I started the demo this morning, just cleaning up some stuff. So you can see that it logged it here that the network interface was down or lost. It's because I unplugged it. So all your alerts will show up here. You can see the smart health status is normal. The temperature status of all the drives are normal. So this is just a really good page to log into to kind of understand really quick what's going on with my unit. So from a performance perspective, here's all the charting that it shows. You can see it's showing an average latency right now of around 1.44 milliseconds. You can see the IOPS are around 1.7K. The throughput's 6 megabytes per second. I'm at 96% reads and 3.6% writes with the data that I'm running across it right now. So you can see that here's it showing my latency. It's showing my reads in blue versus my write latency in green. It's giving me my IOPS. It's showing my write IOPS in green, my read IOPS in blue. And then it's showing me my throughput where I can see my megabytes per second. I'm looking at my reads in blue and my writes in green. So my read-write ratio here, it's showing that. So there's just a good amount of information here in the appliance that's shown on this initial screen. You can flip over and you can actually, well, sorry, I switched boxes on you there. Log right back in. Sorry, I fat fingered that one. Let's close this again. So you can see the differences here. You can go to your volume stats. You can actually see the volume stats. So here we can dive down into the volumes on the unit. You can see how much has been mapped. You can see your snapshot space. You can see the capacity. You can see how much has been consumed. You can see how much is free. Then from a volume aspect, you can see all my volumes sitting here. So I've got hello write, I've got hello read and hello write. I've got fill and I've got fill again. So you can kind of check on what each one's doing. You can just get a really good quick glimpse of what's going on with it. From a system perspective, if you take a look at the hardware, one of the things that we offer is a graphical user look at the actual hardware itself. So here's the actual appliance. You can hover over any of the drives. It'll tell you the model of the drive. It'll tell you the capacity of the drive. It'll tell you how much endurance is left on the drive. If you hover over any of the componentry in it, like the motherboard sensors, it tells you the volts of each of those sensors. If you look at the system fans, it'll tell you the RPM. So you just get a lot of information here. So anytime you get some type of an alert, this is a good place to go to and look at the graphical aspect of it. So you can take a peek and kind of understand exactly what's happening. So you can see here, this is NIC 1. You can see its IP, you see its speed. You can see that NIC 2's up. So you can see system fan 3. So you can kind of bounce around and look at all the different things. You can look at the enclosures. If I had additional shelves, if I had another flash shelf under this, it would show here. So you can click into that and you can monitor it and manage it as well. So just a really good page to kind of click through and understand, what's going on with the unit at any given time. So let's kind of go back through the tree now. You can see this is our tree that we use to kind of scroll through all the features and functions of the box. You can jump into the event log and you can track through and sort through all the events. You can go into the management console and actually go to CLI. So if you're an advanced user and you want to use command line interface, you can jump into the management console here and go CLI and avoid using the GUI. If you want to take a peek at the dashboard, you can go in here and do things like power off the controllers, power on the controllers. It's where you do your system updates. So you can do a multitude of things there from a maintenance perspective. You can look at your storage statistics here. This is what we were looking at earlier from the main page. We saw the volume statistics page. So you can just kind of bounce around from different things. And then as you move down, you'll notice that anything here that's an action, like a configuration piece, if you look, this is our storage wizard. So we do storage wizard. We have the volume wizard, the alias or the virtual IP wizard. We have a snapshot wizard or replication wizard. Everything's wizard based. So we try to drive you through it in a specific flow. That way there's no mistakes that are made as you walk through and you're setting up different features or functions of the box. So one of the things that we do a little different is we provide free remote installs with these units. If you prefer on-site, we can come on-site. But with both on-site and remote installs, one of the things we do is provide a free training session. So it's a 3-hour training session. It really allows us to go through the box in detail with you as the user so that you know what all the functionalities and how the features work. So if you come back to the box, a week later, 3 weeks later, 6 months later, you still remember, okay, when I'm setting up a volume, this is how I do it. And we also offer online help in this unit, the little world globe up in the top right-hand screen. If you click on that, there's over 300 pages of help there where you can sort through it and kind of ask questions, and the information will pop up from a Q&A type session so you can understand exactly what you're looking at. If you don't understand one of the questions, you can search for it and find out more about what that means. So, and with that, I'm going to conclude the demo here, and we're going to jump into the Q&A session. So I see we've got some questions that are rolling in.
Yeah, Justin actually got emailed a couple of questions throughout the presentation, and actually looks like we're a little bit ahead of time today, folks. So we'll be able to wrap up probably a little early and kind of get you guys on with your day. So you can kind of move on. If you're on the East Coast, your day's probably winding down. If you're on the West Coast, it's only about halfway through. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But regardless, one question that we had come across was regarding to our VMware support. They just wanted us to expand on how we utilize VMware support. How long have we been certified? What are we certified up to in terms of the dates and everything like that? So Justin, could you just expand on the VMware portion a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So StorTrends has been a VMware TAP Elite member for the past 7 years. So we support all versions and back versions of VMware. The current 3500 is supported up to the 5.1 version of ESXi. The 3600 and the 3500 will both support ESXi 6.0 upon release. So we're currently engaged with VMware in supporting their ESXi 6.0. We're also working on advanced features of 6.0, which include VASA support and vVol support. Those will be released shortly after the ESXi 6.0 is released to the market.
Oh, that's perfect. That also answers another question we had about vVols come in, when that would be offered. So that's perfect. We had another question come in more regarding to licensing. They said that their current vendor utilizes kind of a unique licensing feature. So they were just asking about how we utilize licensing, what that structure looks like for additional features and all that good stuff, and kind of want to see how we do things differently.
Sure. So this is a set. So when you purchase the box, you're providing with an all-inclusive license function. So you will receive a license key that enables all of the features of the box. So that includes replication, that includes snapshot, it includes thin provisioning, auto data tiering. Every licensable feature within our array, you receive the full license to, and you can determine if you want to use it by setting that feature up or not within the actual CLI of the array.
All right, perfect. And just a couple more rolling in here. We have one requesting, how do we first of all, do we do proof of concept boxes? And if so, how does that process work for getting a proof of concept? How long does it stay in the environment, and does it require a purchase order?
Okay, yeah, great question. So we do provide proof of concept units. They're typically for 30-day loans, and no, we do not require a purchase order. It's a simple 2-page agreement for a proof of concept. So it basically it boils down to you agree to protect the box and not do any damage to it and send it back to us, or either purchase it after 30 days, sign here. So a real simple process. We try to keep it easy peasy because we know that it's a pain for customers to go through, hoops and get things done on their side. So we try to make it easy so they can test this technology. And we really stress proof of concepts because it allows the customer, to put it in their infrastructure, to put some backup data on it, to really test it and make sure this is the right fit and the right technology for their need.
Certainly, certainly. Well, very good. Well, would definitely like to get everyone out a little bit early if we can, so that you can kind of get on. We really do appreciate everyone taking the time to speak with us, and let us present to them this afternoon. If you have any additional questions after the event, maybe have something you think about 10 minutes from now and be like, oh man, I wish I had thought of, feel free to shoot me an email. Again, that's that email in the description below the video. That's tylern@ami.com. Or again, you can feel free to reach out to the StorTrends main line and reach us through that way, through the line at the email at AMI. Other than that, though, Justin, do you have anything else for the people before we signed off?
No, just if you would like a price quote on the product, kind of know where it's at and understand what it looks like from a gigabyte pricing perspective. There is an online price quote configurator on our website, so you can fill that out. It's going to ask you some questions about your databases. It's going to ask you about usability of IOPS and things of that nature. Just feel free to fill that out, and when you do that, it'll configure it and email a price quote to you so that you can get a ballpark understanding of what these arrays are going to cost you if you're trying to decide whether you should go look at either a flash or a hybrid array.
Okay, and is that going to be an MSRP quote of the sorts?
Yeah, it will be. It'll be list pricing, and we sell through resellers throughout the U.S., so we're 100% channel. If you have a preferred reseller, we can resell through them. We may already have a contract in place with those guys. If not, we have value-added resellers all throughout the U.S. that can sell this product to you, and it'll be a little cheaper than the list price. They're going to be able to get you a better deal on the box once you engage with one of those partners.
All right, and it looks like some of you have already actually taken the opportunity to go ahead and fill out the price quote generator and send those over. So we appreciate that. We will go ahead and get those quotes generated and sent back over to you momentarily. Again, that link can be found in the description next to my email. We also have our social media information on there as well. If you would like to follow us, we have at StorTrends for our Twitter handle, and our LinkedIn information is there as well. However, other than that, we really certainly do appreciate everybody taking the time to let us present to them today. Hope the information was very good and what you're hoping for. Let us know if you have any questions at all, and we will look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thanks so much.
Thank you.